gives me strength to believe.
We're breaking
We're
free.
soaring,
Flying.
there's not a star in heaven that we can't reach.
Can this transfer window just end now? So hello guys, how are we getting on? Today we're going to be talking about transfers. More in detail, Chelsea's transfer window. I'm going to talk about what I think of it. I'm going to be obviously speaking about some of the rumours that have been going around about some of the players we're going to sign. There's also been big transfer news elsewhere over the last week since I've last seen you. As well, by the end of the video I'm going to be talking a little bit about VAR, which last week we've seen the best and the worst of in the FA Cup. We'll get into that very shortly, but first we're going to start off with Chelsea. So finally, last weekend we got our first victory of 2018. We beat Brighton by 4-0 at the Amex. Didn't have it all our own way, but for once our class showed above a smaller team who, you know, it should be shown against. Hazard was brilliant. You know, when he's like that, there's not many that can stop him. Great goal from Willian as well, one of the contenders for goal of the season, they're calling it. And Victor Moses out in the fourth, very late on indeed. But, you know, a good win. A win we should have got. I think a win that was overdue. You know, we had played in the FA Cup during the week against Norwich and struggled. Went all the way to penalties, ended the game with 9 men, and VAR was very much a controversial figure in the whole thing, as well as referee Graham Scott. I'll get on to him in a minute. But yeah, then we went into the Cup semi-final against Arsenal with a little bit of confidence. I wouldn't say I felt confident, but more so than I felt going into the Brighton game after watching us play against Norwich in the FA Cup. Coming up against Arsenal, I think I expected it to be an open game, and it was, to be fair. We were the better side in the first half, got an early goal, Eden Hazard scoring, and Arsenal equalised very soon after that with what can only be described as an absolute shambles of a goal altogether. A header from Nacho Monreal hits Alonso, then hits Rudiger before going past Willy Caballero, and then Arsenal went in front in the second half. Granit Xhaka latching on to the Alexandre Lacazette cross, which deflected off Rudiger again. So it wasn't the best night for him. We're crashing out of the cup in the semi-final. Do I think it was the only cup we could have won? I don't think we would have won it anyway if we got to the final, to be honest. I think Arsenal are going to lose the final as well. I think Arsenal deserved to win the game overall. When they were on top in the second half, they took their chances and were dominant and kind of showed that they were on top, and I think that was the difference. Like, when Chelsea were on top in the first half, Arsenal weren't playing well, but they were still level, and that was the difference between the two sides, I think, ultimately at the final whistle. Now, if you guys follow me on Twitter, you will have seen a bit of a rant of a tweet after the game. I singled out 2 players in particular, Tiémoué Bakayoko and Michy Batshuayi, 2 players that I am growing more and more frustrated watching every time I watch them. Bakayoko, we paid 40 million for the man from Monaco, expecting this big, you know, powerful midfielder. I did expect he was going to be, you know, a Kante-esque player. He just hasn't done it. He's been very, very poor. Like, what does he do? Like, what does he do? If he's a taller Kante, what does he do? Like, he doesn't tackle. He can't tackle. And when he wins the ball, he just gives it away again. He scored a couple of goals for us, but, I mean, he just floats in and out of games, and he's very, very anonymous. I think on Wednesday night in particular, it was very clear to see that we missed Cesc Fabregas big time. We missed that little bit of creativity in the middle of the park. But the thing is, even when Fabregas is playing, Conte continuously plays Bakayoko anyway. So, I mean, I don't know, and Batshuayi, Conte doesn't even like. So, I mean, it's quite clear at this stage that he doesn't fancy him. He played him against Brighton at the weekend, he didn't have a good game, and obviously left him out on Wednesday night against Arsenal. And, you know, when you're playing for a team that's looking to compete for Premier League titles, for Champions Leagues, these kind of major honours, you need a good strength and depth squad. and that's the difference between us and Man City at the minute. You look at Man City have so many more options, and it looks like they're about to bring in Aymeric Laporte from Athletic Bilbao to further bolster their squad. Obviously missed out on Alexis Sanchez, which I'll get on to in a minute as well. You know, when you have players like Bakayoko and Batshuayi starting, I know Murat has been injured, and even when Murat has been playing, he's going through a very bad spell at the minute. Which brings us on to the search for a striker, as you've seen in the intro. I mean, this has just been the most bizarre transfer window I think I've ever had to experience as a Chelsea fan. Going after players like Peter Crouch, Andy Carroll, Ashley Barnes. We're going for that big man who will be able to hold the ball up, evidently because Batshuayi and Morata, neither of them really can. Obviously there was talks of Edin Dzeko, but that deal looks to have fallen through for whatever reason. So we're now turning our attention to Olivier Giroud, and obviously the future of him depends on who comes in at Arsenal. You know, Wenger has said if anyone comes in, then there'll be a chance for players to leave. They're being linked to it. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang having already signed Henrik Mkhitaryan from Manchester United. If Arsenal do get Aubameyang, that is a very, very frightening prospect. I think him and Lacazette will bounce off each other. I think that could be a very, very good combination. Now when you have the creative players like Ozil and Mkhitaryan around them, you know, it is very frightening. But obviously Arsenal still have that issue with their defence. Lots more transfer news then, and obviously the biggest story of the week being that Alexis Sanchez and Henrik Mkhitaryan swap deal finally did happen. Last night Sanchez made his debut and somehow won man of the match against Yeovil. I don't know, obviously commercially driven, as the Oval Town's Twitter said, a commercially driven decision to give Sanchez man of the match. But look, I think it's a good deal on both parts. But yeah, that deal finally happened, and now Arsenal are being linked, as I mentioned, with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, which, as I mentioned, could be very, very frightening indeed. Moving on to Manchester City, then I did mention they are after Aymeric Laporte, who was actually down to be playing for Athletic Bilbao last night in their game against Eibar in La Liga, but he ended up, like, he was literally on the team sheet. His shirt was up in the dressing room. At the last minute they were like, no, you're not playing, because obviously they'd heard that Man City had made an approach to sign him. You know, there's not many weak links at Man City at the minute, but I think one of them is John Stones, and you know, the 50 million price tag is still looming large over him. And I think Laporte could be a really, really good signing for Man City. Moving on to Tottenham then, and they've been linked with Paris Saint-Germain's Lucas Moura, who has kind of been marginalised by Unai Emery ever since, you know, players like Di Maria, Neymar, and Mbappe all have come in. I think it'd be a great, great signing for Tottenham. I really, really would. Maybe they are lacking that little bit of pace on the flanks at the minute. I think he'd be a really good acquisition for them. They haven't been linked with too many players, Tottenham, but I think if they do get this man, I think it'd be worth getting. So that's it for transfer talk. Let's move on to VAR. As many people have said, we've seen over the past week the best and the worst of it in the FA Cup. Leicester got a goal from it. Kelechi Iheanacho scored the very first goal to be given by VAR. He was clearly onside. The linesman pulled him up for off. He scored and it wasn't given, but looking back on the VAR, the scene he was on, and the referee gave the goal. Obviously that's an area where it can improve the game massively if it's given a goal that was not given but should have been given for an offside decision. You know, that's obviously a big area where it can improve the game. You know, then we seen it in the Chelsea-Norwich game, and I was watching the game, and ask anyone, I was absolutely tearing me hair out watching it. In extra time, Willian goes down in the box under a challenge from the Norwich defender, and, you know, it's not a huge bit of contact, but he's clipped, he's tripped. You know, it's a penalty in my opinion. Maybe I'm just saying that because I'm a Chelsea fan. Other people will have different opinions, of course, but I did think it was a penalty. But a decision like that has to go to the VAR, I think, no matter what. And the fact that the referee, Graham Scott, didn't even ask for the decision is mind-blowing to me. I'd like, at least ask for it. It's a dodgy decision. It's in extra time. It's late in the game. You know, a challenge like that goes in. You need to question it no matter what. Like, at least ask for it. If he asked for it and they said it's not a penalty, you'd say fine, whatever. But he didn't even ask for it, which really, really pissed me off. And then, we had a few more decisions, and then Graham Scott sent both Pedro and Morata off. We ended up winning the game on penalties anyway. VAR, it's a good idea. It's going in the right direction, but I'm not sure it's quite ready yet for the big competitions. And FIFA have come out and said that it is going to be used at next summer's World Cup. So, it'll be interesting to see how it fares there. Again, good idea, step in the right direction, but there are certainly some changes that need to be made to it before the bigger tournaments start rolling around. So that concludes this video. It's a bit of something different. There's no Premier League matches this weekend, just the FA Cup. So if you guys do want me to do a verdict on the FA Cup game, do leave a like on this video. And also leave a like if you did enjoy this video. Subscribe if you are new around here. And I will catch you later.